Thank you. Now, keep them raised. Now, who here has ordered takeout or delivery from a restaurant in the last year? Okay, how about the last 30 days? Okay, keep them raised if you've ordered takeout or delivery in the last week. Okay, you can put them down. I think it's safe to say almost all of us have ordered takeout or delivery in recent times. And can you recall what you did with the packaging when you were done? I'm sure most of us, including myself, would probably say threw it in the trash and never thought about it again. It's the kind of waste that often is out of sight, out of mind. And we're not alone, because nearly 1 trillion disposable food packaged service products have been used each year in the United States. But this waste is no longer out of sight because it's showing up in our environment and our oceans. Since 1950, only about 9% of plastic used has been adequately recycled. When I first started my project, I set out to better understand the pollution problem in our oceans and the pathways that led plastics there. But I quickly learned about the enormous amount of litter data that's already been collected and analyzed. And in the latest study to date, it was found that over 50% of plastic pollution found on our beaches is from single-use takeout items. It was clear this issue was a symptom of the problem, which existed back on land. It was after this that I decided to pivot and focus on source solutions to see how this waste stream could be disrupted. This led me to the concept of circular economies. While this isn't new, think about the library model, for example. Borrow, enjoy, return. You borrow a book, you enjoy that book for a certain length of time, and return it once you're done. But in our modern-day consumer-driven societies, we've prioritized convenience over sustainability. No one chooses to have a side of plastic with their food, but the cheap convenience of disposable packaging has become the standard for food service for far too long. As a result, we've created a take, make, waste society. The circular model, on the other hand, redefines the economy around principles of designing out waste and pollution and keeping products and materials in use for as long as possible. And this idea is happening across sectors, and exciting innovations are emerging in the food packaging space. But I noticed a gap in closing the loop with restaurant foodware and connecting businesses with the resources they needed to transition to alternatives. This led me to the question, how might we help restaurants more easily navigate towards sustainability? For my project, I decided to build a website that serves as a one-stop shop for restaurants to transition from single-use plastics to sustainable alternatives. I focused on restaurants here in San Diego and created an online directory of sustainable vendors, a guidebook to distill this information, and case study examples of restaurants that have already done this. With all this in mind, these are the methods I took to develop my project. First, I sought to understand the local and state-level ordinances and laws regarding food packaging. I found there are several that impact restaurants. For example, on April 1st of this year, San Diego banned most styrofoam packaging. And in 2022, California passed SB 54 with goals to reduce plastic packaging over the next 10 years. Secondly, I conducted several interviews with both ocean-friendly restaurants and non-ocean-friendly restaurants to better understand their decision-making. Next, I talked with companies that provide reusable products and services to better understand how these solutions could be more widely adopted and more accessible. After that, I researched and identified over 30 sustainable vendors and services that can service both San Diego and restaurants nationwide. Finally, I documented the end-to-end process of how a restaurant can make a sustainable transition. Now, in talking with both restaurants and sustainable vendors, I learned some key insights. When both start this transition, the cost seems very unclear and expensive, and then the terminology seems to make their heads spin. But once restaurants get over these factors, they realize they're not alone, and other restaurants like them can help them in this journey. And finally, going sustainable isn't just good for the environment, it can also be good for business. This led into the development of my case studies. You've likely seen Juneshine hard kombucha in your favorite grocery store, but did you know they found a way to eliminate plastic in their supply chain? You won't find any Juneshine cans with plastic rings. In fact, they even started a co-op program working with other local breweries to collect and recycle those hard-to-dispose-of plastic packages. They also compost and recycle on site, as well as partner with the National Forest Foundation to plant trees to replace those that were used in the making of their paper carton boxes. Juneshine is leading the way in showing how sustainability is possible even at a brewery. Next was James Coffee. This is a really unique cafe that started their own reusable glass straw program for their to-go coffee. And here's what it looks like. Customers can purchase glass straws at any James Coffee location for $1.50 and return it to any location next time they come in. And they'll get a deposit or a credit for their next coffee for doing this. And so their customers adopted to reusables, and James Coffee built brand loyalty at the same time. And they were inspired to start this program because they're learning about the enormous amount of coffee cups that get thrown away every day. In fact, in the United States alone, 16 billion disposable coffee cups are thrown away every year. In addition, the plastic lining on these cups often contaminate recycling facilities and can take up to 30 years to break down. But of course, before a restaurant can even think about adopting any of these best practices, they need to first understand where to start. As part of my capstone, I interviewed a local woman-owned coffee shop owner who doesn't want to be named, so for these purposes, I'll call her Karina. She told me how she got started and that she loves being an owner despite the long days and losing her weekends. I asked her the main reason she only uses paper cups and plastic lids for all her coffee. And she told me it was the easy way. And while she hates contributing to single-use waste, when she looked into more sustainable options, it ended up being too confusing or too expensive. Karina works 12-hour days and doesn't have the time or attention to scour countless websites for the perfect vendor. And then I told her about the Circular Directory, a website I created as a one-stop shop for restaurants to make a sustainable transition. And I took her through a quick demo. Landing on the homepage gave her some context about the site and how she could easily navigate around. She noticed links to all the different sustainable products, and she even saw that she can dig in deeper to understand potentially the health impacts that leak into food from traditional packaging. I could see that the messaging was resonated with her. And she was also inspired to see that other restaurant owners were sharing their advice and tips, and that this could be easily seen. The first thing she was curious about was the guidebook, especially here since the information was geared towards restaurants in San Diego. Right away, she saw a link to a local compost facility, the California PFAS ban in food packaging, and the Cali Recycle approved packaging products, as well as the local San Diego ban on styrofoam packaging. And all of these would help inform her purchasing decisions. Opening the guidebook, she loved the fact that she could finally understand what all the terms and certifications actually meant. For example, she was able to learn the difference between biodegradable and compostable packaging, as well as see the different types of plant-based packaging options, and even the certifications to look out for. She was able to learn that just because sustainable packaging is the right thing to do doesn't mean it has to be bad for business. She was able to see that small businesses can actually save money by incorporating reusable serviceware. And she could see when she would start profiting from a reusable versus a disposable coffee cup, thanks to the easy-to-use calculator by Rethink Disposal. To make her life even easier, I showed her a local resource, the Waste Metrics Consulting Group. And this company helps restaurants figure out the best types of packaging that can actually be properly disposed of here in San Diego. Feeling empowered after browsing the guidebook, we went over to the directory. Right away, the thing that caught her eye first was the stat that said 45% of customers rank environmentally friendly packaging as important to them. Moving through, she was interested in learning more about reusable services and noticed that that was featured first up front. She also told me that the idea of reusable goods was appealing because she could have more control how she incorporates this into her business. And arriving at the vendor search, I told her there were over 30 different vendors that she could search from. Right away, she loved the fact that she could filter vendors by disposal type so that her packaging decisions could have the least amount of waste impact. She also liked that she could filter by region, since supporting local vendors was really important to her. We started with reusable services category, and she was intrigued by Foreverware. This is a reusable service company that provides reusable stainless steel cups. And this is similar to what James Coffee does without all the initial heavy lifting. It's a turnkey solution that she could get started with right away. She appreciated they were transparent about the costs, and it gives her customers a unique experience and helps build brand loyalty. We went back to the directory and this time did a search for reusable goods. We checked out Coffee Crease, and they make coffee cups out of recycled coffee grounds. Now, this option could allow her customers to enjoy coffee on site or purchase it to use as a souvenir for to-go and for reuse. What I'd like to leave you with today is the following. There's 3 main ways a restaurant can be influenced to switch their packaging. It's required by law, it can save them money, they can attract more customers. And going sustainable can accomplish all 3 of these. Regulations are happening, cost savings are real, and customers can ask for it. And we have the power to play a role in this transition too. Next time you're at your favorite cafe or restaurant, ask them about their sustainability practices, or if you can bring your reusable for your to-go food or your drinks. By having these conversations, we can open them up to different alternatives, and if they know their customers care, eventually they will too. In conclusion, I see this as a first step in helping close the loop with foodware packaging. Making it easier for businesses to transition can help accelerate the linear model to a circular one. And by educating our communities and working with local governments, we can begin to eliminate waste and normalize reuse, making healthier communities and a cleaner planet for all. A special thank you to my amazing Capstone Advisory members. Their insight, guidance, and mentorship really made this project possible. And I also want to thank all the people I interviewed who openly shared their insights and feedback along this journey. And lastly, none of this would have been possible without the support of my friends and family, those watching online on the East Coast and those here today. And with that, I invite you to check out the site, let me know your thoughts. Feel free to scan the QR code and submit feedback. Thank you very much.
So what's next, Nicole? How do you make sure that people will see these resources?
Yeah, great question. So I was fortunate enough to partner with the Surfrider Foundation, and they have a program called Ocean Friendly Restaurant Program, where they help restaurants do this transition through numerous ways. And they have a pretty large network here in San Diego. They're continuing to expand nationwide. And so I'm working with them to see how this resource can be used for their restaurants. In addition, I connected with someone here locally at the City San Diego's government office, and they might be able to use this resource as well, especially as the bands continue to eliminate certain packages that they're used to using.
You have a solution for the pizza box?
Actually, I did find a really interesting reusable pizza box for individual slices and for large, so that could be one option. Yes, one of the vendors has that. Yeah.
Thanks so much, Nicole. I have so many questions. It's such an exciting directory. Thank you for choosing this for your capstone and clearly put so much work into making it not only a great project, but a great usable resource for everyone, really actionable. My first question for you is whether you've been able to connect with anyone here at UC San Diego. We have a number of vendors as well as food halls that have quite a bit of takeout service as well. I'm wondering if you've been able to connect and how that may have informed your project, or you might be able to bring this back to them.
Yeah, thank you for that question. So I did find out the UCSD started a reusable container program for the food hall vendors, and they started that during the pandemic, and I learned a little bit more about that program. The service is primarily universities, and then so it's a little bit different for the vendors that service restaurants, but it inspired me to kind of look down those options as well. And if I'm able to kind of continue this project, I'd love to dig into that a little bit further and see what other options there are.